The wealthy husband who mocked his wife's looks never expected her stunning transformation. Claire stood before the full-length mirror in their penthouse bedroom, fastening the clasp of her pearl earrings. Rain tapped against the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city lights below blurred and distant. She'd spent 2 hours getting ready for the gala, hair styled in soft waves, makeup carefully applied, the emerald gown Nathan's stylist had selected because it was appropriate for a woman of her station. Nathan emerged from his closet, adjusting his cufflinks, phone tucked between his ear and shoulder. "No, tell them we're not budging on the Singapore terms," he said to whoever was on the other end. His eyes flicked toward Claire briefly as he crossed the room. She turned, smoothing the dress over her hips. "Does this work?" "The stylist said emerald, but I'm not sure if." Nathan glanced up from his phone, his expression flat, almost bored. "Maybe wear something that distracts from your face tonight." The words hit her like ice water. Claire's hands froze mid-adjustment. She stared at him, waiting for the punchline, the smile that would indicate he was joking. It never came. Nathan went back to his call, moving toward the bathroom. "Yeah, I'm still here. What were you saying about the third-quarter projections?" He closed the door. Claire stood there, alone, the rain suddenly deafening. "Stop everything you're doing right now. Put down your coffee. Pause whatever else you were scrolling through. Because what you just heard." That was the moment Claire Benton's entire world cracked wide open. And what happened next? It wasn't what her husband expected. Not even close. Picture this, a woman who spent years making herself smaller, quieter, less, all to fit into her billionaire husband's perfect life. And the night he told her to hide her face was the night she decided to show the world exactly who she was. This isn't just a story about a cruel comment. This is about what happens when a woman stops apologizing for existing and starts glowing so bright that the man who dimmed her light can't look away. But before we dive into this transformation that had all of Manhattan talking, tell me in the comments. Where are you listening from and what time is it? Seriously, drop it below. I'm Dr. Mason, and I'll be down there reading every single one of your responses because we're building something special here. And listen, if you're new to Love and Luxury, hit that subscribe button right now. This channel is about women who stop shrinking and start shining. We do fate, second chances, and transformations that make you want to stand up and cheer. Now let's rewind and see how Claire Benton went from invisible to unforgettable. 5 years earlier, Claire had met Nathan Benton at an art gallery in Chelsea. She'd been a design student at Parsons, working part-time at a cafe to pay tuition, wearing a vintage dress she'd altered herself. He'd been the man everyone whispered about, 33, self-made, the kind of success story Forbes wrote features about. Their eyes met across a room full of abstract paintings neither of them understood. "Do you actually like this?" he'd asked, gesturing at a canvas that looked like someone had sneezed paint onto it. "Or are you pretending because it's supposed to be important?" Claire had laughed. "I think it's trying too hard. Real beauty doesn't need to scream." Exactly. His smile was devastating. Nathan Benton. Claire Hartley. That night, he'd taken her to dinner at a restaurant she'd only read about in magazines. He asked about her dreams, her designs, what she wanted to build. And for the first time in her life, Claire felt seen. The courtship was a whirlwind. Flowers delivered to her tiny apartment. Weekend trips to his house in the Hamptons. The way he looked at her like she was the only person in the room. Her best friend Sophia had been cautious. "He's amazing, Claire, but does he actually listen when you talk? Or does he just wait for his turn to speak? You're being paranoid. I'm being careful. There's a difference." But Claire was already falling. And when Nathan proposed 6 months later, a private dinner on his penthouse terrace, the city spread out beneath them like a promise, she said yes without hesitation. The wedding was elegant, expensive, and entirely planned by Nathan's team. Claire had wanted something smaller, more intimate, but Nathan insisted. "We're building a life together. People need to see that we're a power couple." She'd noticed he said power couple, not in love. But she dismissed it. The first year of marriage was an adjustment. Claire put design school on hold. Nathan's suggestion. "You don't need to work, sweetheart. Focus on building our home, our social network. You're representing the Benton name now. So she did. She joined charity boards, attended luncheons with other wealthy wives who discussed Pilates instructors and vacation homes with the same seriousness others discussed world peace. She learned which designers Nathan preferred, minimalist, expensive, understated, which colors he thought were appropriate, neutrals, never anything too bright, and which version of herself made him smile. The version that agreed, that didn't push back, that made him look good. Slowly, Claire Hartley disappeared, and Claire Benton, polished, pleasant, perfect, took her place. But perfection, as it turned out, was exhausting. By year 3, their conversations were transactional. Did you confirm the reservation for the Hendersons? Yes. What time is the car picking us up Friday? 7. You're wearing the Armani, right? Not that colorful thing. Right. The colorful thing was a dress she'd designed herself in her old life. She'd stopped wearing it. Stopped designing entirely. Her sketchbook sat in a drawer, untouched, gathering dust alongside the version of herself that used to create beautiful things. Nathan's criticisms started small. A comment about her hair, maybe sleeker next time. A note about her laugh, you don't need to be so loud at these events. An observation about her body, have you been working out? You're looking a bit soft. Each comment alone was survivable. Together, they formed a chorus that played on repeat in Claire's head. Not quite right. Not quite enough. Not quite what he wanted. She tried harder. Woke up earlier to exercise. Studied fashion magazines to dress better. Practiced being quieter, taking up less space, needing less attention. And still, Nathan grew more distant. His late nights at the office stretched longer. His phone was always in his hand. When she tried to talk to him about anything substantive, her loneliness, her desire to maybe take a class, her feeling that they were roommates more than partners, he'd pat her hand absently. Everything's fine, Claire. You're overthinking. But everything wasn't fine. Claire couldn't remember the last time Nathan had really looked at her. Not at his wife, the accessory that attended events and managed his household. But at her. Claire. The woman who used to have opinions and dreams and a laugh that was too loud. She couldn't remember the last time she'd looked at herself that way either. Until the night everything changed. The annual Metropolitan Arts Gala was one of the events of the season. Tickets were $5,000 per person. Attendees were photographed for society pages. And wives were expected to look perfect. Claire had prepared accordingly. The emerald gown. The styled hair. Makeup professionally applied. She'd even skipped lunch to make sure the dress fit exactly right. Standing before the mirror, she'd allowed herself a moment of hope. Maybe tonight he'll notice. Maybe tonight will be different. Then came Nathan's comment. Maybe wear something that distracts from your face tonight. After he disappeared into the bathroom, Claire stood frozen. The rain seemed louder. The room seemed smaller. Her reflection in the mirror seemed like a stranger, a woman trying so hard to be acceptable that she'd become invisible. She walked to the bathroom door, her heart pounding. Nathan. Yeah. His voice was muffled, distracted. What did you just say to me? The water turned on. What? I'm trying to shave, Claire. You told me to distract from my face. Silence. Then, I was joking. Don't be so sensitive. But his tone wasn't joking. It was dismissive. Like she was being unreasonable for having feelings about being insulted. Claire backed away from the door, something cold settling in her chest. Don't be so sensitive. How many times had she heard that? How many times had she swallowed her hurt because expressing it was too much? She looked at herself again. Really looked. When had the light gone out of her eyes? When had she started holding her shoulders like she was apologizing for existing? Claire, we're going to be late. Nathan emerged, perfectly composed, already moving past the moment like it hadn't happened. She followed him to the car. Because that's what she did. She followed. The gala was held at a historic mansion on Fifth Avenue, all marble columns and champagne fountains and people who measured their worth in zeros. Nathan's hand rested on Claire's lower back as they posed for photographers, the perfect couple, his grip just a bit too tight. "Smile," he murmured. "You look tense." She smiled. She always smiled. Inside, they separated almost immediately. Nathan gravitating toward a cluster of investors, Claire drifting toward the other wives who congregated near the hors d'oeuvres like elegant, expensive birds. "Claire, that dress is stunning." Margaret Chen, wife of a tech mogul, air-kissed both her cheeks. "Thank you. You always look so pulled together. I swear, you never have a hair out of place." Claire accepted the compliment, though it felt hollow. Pulled together was just another way of saying carefully controlled. The evening dragged. Claire made small talk, sipped champagne she didn't want, and watched Nathan across the room, laughing, charismatic, alive in a way he never was at home. An older woman named Eleanor approached, someone Claire vaguely recognized from the museum board. "You look lovely tonight, dear." "Thank you." Eleanor studied her with sharp eyes that seemed to see too much. "Are you happy?" The question was so unexpected that Claire's careful smile faltered. Of course. Why would you ask?" "Because I wore that same smile for 30 years. Eleanor's voice was gentle. The one that says everything's fine when nothing is. Claire felt her throat tighten. You should live your life, dear. Not the one someone else designed for you." Before Claire could respond, Eleanor moved away, leaving her standing there with those words ringing in her ears. By 11 p.m., Claire's face hurt from smiling. Nathan was still networking, his third scotch in hand, when she finally approached. "I'm getting a headache. I think I'll take the car home." He barely glanced at her. Sure. I'll catch a ride with Davies." No concern. "No, are you okay?" Just dismissal. Claire rode home alone in the back of their town car, the city lights streaking past, Eleanor's question echoing. "Are you happy?" "No." The answer was no. And she couldn't remember when it had become no, which somehow made it worse. At home, she went straight to the bathroom, the one place Nathan wouldn't follow because he had his own. She locked the door and stared at herself under the harsh vanity lights. The makeup was still perfect, the hair still in place. But her eyes looked dead. Claire gripped the marble counter, her breath coming in short gasps. "Maybe wear something that distracts from your face." The words played on repeat, mixing with years of other comments. "You're too sensitive. Don't be so loud. Have you thought about toning it down? That color's not really appropriate. Maybe lose a few pounds. Why can't you just be happy?" And suddenly, she wasn't gasping. She was crying. Silent, shaking sobs that felt like they'd been building for years. When had she agreed to become this? This muted, managed version of a person? When had she decided that Nathan's comfort was more important than her own existence? Claire looked at her reflection through tears, and for the first time in years, she felt something other than numbness. She felt angry. Not loud, explosive anger. Quiet, cold, clarifying anger. The kind that didn't scream. The kind that decided. She grabbed a tissue, wiped her eyes carefully so she wouldn't smudge her makeup, because even in crisis, she'd been trained to maintain appearances, and took a long breath. "I'm done," she whispered to her reflection. Not done with her marriage. Not yet. But done disappearing. Done shrinking. Done believing that love meant erasing yourself. That night, Claire Benton made a decision that would change everything. She was going to reclaim herself. Quietly. Carefully. Completely. And Nathan wouldn't even notice until it was too late. The morning after the gala, Claire woke before Nathan. She showered, dressed in clothes that actually had color, a soft yellow blouse she'd hidden in the back of her closet, and left the penthouse before he woke. She walked to Central Park. It was early autumn, the air crisp and clean. Joggers passed by. Dog walkers nodded hello. The city was waking up, and for the first time in years, Claire felt like she was waking up with it. She sat on a bench near the reservoir, watching the water ripple, and pulled out her phone. The wellness retreat had been advertised on Instagram, one of those sponsored posts that usually annoyed her. But this morning, it felt like a sign. Reclaim your inner light. A women's wellness retreat in the Hudson Valley. 1 week of yoga, meditation, and self-discovery. Claire clicked the link. Read the details. Saw the price, $3,500. She hesitated. That was more than she'd ever spent on herself without asking Nathan. Then she remembered, maybe wear something that distracts from your face. She booked it. Used her own credit card, the one she barely touched because Nathan handled all their finances. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Where are you? Claire typed back. Went for a walk. Be home soon. No explanation. No apology. Just a statement. It felt radical. When she returned to the penthouse, Nathan was in his office, on a video call. He waved distractedly when she passed. Claire went to her closet, the one Nathan had organized by occasion and appropriate color palette, and pulled out the yellow blouse. She stared at it. Nathan hated yellow. Said it was too attention-seeking. She wore it anyway. At lunch, when Nathan emerged from his office, he glanced at her, frowned slightly, but said nothing. I'm going to a wellness retreat next week, Claire said, her voice steadier than she felt. Nathan looked up from his phone. A what? A wellness retreat. Upstate. It's a week-long program focused on. Is this for one of your charity things? Claire paused. She could say yes. He'd accept that without question. Instead, she said, no. It's for me. Nathan blinked. For you. Yes. Why? Because I want to. The words hung between them. When was the last time she'd said she wanted something without justification? Nathan frowned. A whole week seems excessive, don't you think? What am I supposed to do? What you always do. Claire's voice was calm. Work. She walked away before he could respond, her heart pounding but her steps steady. In the bedroom, she closed the door and leaned against it, a smile breaking across her face. It was small. It was just a retreat. But it felt like the first breath after being underwater for years. That week, Claire made other small changes. She re-downloaded Instagram, which she deleted because Nathan said social media was beneath them. She followed design accounts, artists, women who posted about self-love and boundaries and reclaiming joy. She stopped responding to Nathan's texts immediately. Let them sit for an hour, 2 hours, sometimes half a day. She wore colors. She said no to a charity luncheon she didn't want to attend. She started a journal, something Sophia had suggested years ago. The first entry was simple. I don't know who I am anymore. But I'm going to find out. Nathan noticed nothing. Or if he did, he didn't care enough to comment. And that, Claire realized, was the point. She'd spent years contorting herself to earn his attention, his approval, his love. But you can't earn something that's supposed to be freely given. So she stopped trying. The retreat center was 2 hours north of the city, nestled in the Hudson Valley among trees that were just beginning to turn amber and gold. Claire arrived on a Sunday afternoon, pulling up in an Uber because Nathan had needed the car. The main building was a converted farmhouse, all weathered wood and wide porches, the kind of place that felt like a deep exhale. Welcome. A woman in her 40s with sun-weathered skin and kind eyes approached. I'm Tessa. You must be Claire. I am. Claire accepted the hug, surprised by how good it felt to be greeted warmly by a stranger. First time at a retreat? First time doing anything like this. Tessa smiled knowingly. You're going to do great. Come on, I'll show you to your cabin. The cabin was small, simple, perfect. A bed with white linens. A window overlooking woods. A small desk. Nothing expensive, nothing designed to impress. It felt like peace. That evening, the 12 women attending gathered in the main house for introductions. They sat in a circle on floor cushions, ages ranging from early 20s to late 60s, backgrounds all different, but something similar in their eyes. A searching, a hunger for something more. Tessa led the opening exercise. Share your name and one thing you'd do if no one was watching or judging. Claire's turn came. Her heart raced. I'm Claire. And I don't know what I'd do. Because I've been performing for so long, I'm not sure who I am when no one's watching. The honesty shocked her. She'd meant to say something safer. But the women around the circle nodded. Several were crying. Thank you for that truth, Tessa said gently. This week is about finding that answer. About remembering the you that exists without the performance. The days fell into a rhythm. Morning yoga at dawn. Meditation. Workshops on boundaries, self-compassion, rediscovering joy. Afternoon hikes. Evening journaling. Claire struggled at first. In the yoga class, she kept apologizing for not being flexible enough, for taking up space on her mat, for breathing too loud. After the third apology, Tessa knelt beside her. Claire, who taught you to apologize for existing? The question hit like a gut punch. I don't know. Yes, you do. And Claire did. She knew exactly when she'd learned it. Knew exactly who had taught her that her presence was an inconvenience, that her needs were too much, that taking up space required justification. She started crying right there on her yoga mat. Tessa didn't tell her to stop or calm down. She just sat with her, a hand on her shoulder, while Claire released years of apologizing. On the third night, the women gathered around a fire pit, wrapped in blankets, sharing stories. A woman named Jenna, 26, talked about leaving a job that destroyed her mental health. Another woman, Patricia, 62, shared how she'd finally divorced her husband of 40 years because she was tired of being invisible. What about you, Claire? Tessa asked gently. What's your story? Claire pulled her blanket tighter. The fire crackled. She could deflect, stay surface level. Instead, she told the truth. My husband told me to wear something that distracts from my face. Gasps around the circle. And instead of leaving or confronting him, I smiled through a gala and then cried in the bathroom alone because I've been trained to believe that his cruelty is somehow my fault. Oh, honey. Patricia reached over, squeezing her hand. I've spent 5 years making myself smaller, Claire continued, the words pouring out now. Quieter. Less colorful. Less opinionated. Less everything. Because I thought that's what love required. And now I don't even recognize myself. What do you want to recognize? Tessa asked. Claire looked at the fire, the flames dancing wild and free. Someone who doesn't apologize for taking up space. Someone who creates beautiful things. Someone who laughs too loud and wears yellow and doesn't need permission to exist. Then let's find her, Tessa said simply. The rest of the week was transformative in ways Claire couldn't have anticipated. She learned to sit with discomfort instead of immediately fixing it. She practiced saying no without justification. She took a watercolor class and painted terribly and laughed about it instead of apologizing. She hiked to an overlook and screamed into the valley, releasing everything she'd swallowed for years. On the last night, Tessa gave her a small stone. Whenever you forget your worth, hold this. And remember, you can't control who stops seeing your value. But you can decide when you start seeing it yourself. Claire held that stone like a lifeline. Returning to Manhattan felt surreal. The penthouse looked the same. Nathan looked the same. But Claire was different. How was your trip? Nathan asked absently, not looking up from his laptop. Life-changing. That's nice. He wasn't listening. He never was. But for the first time, Claire didn't care. His attention was no longer her goal. That night, after Nathan went to sleep, Claire sat at the desk in the guest bedroom, the one that had become her de facto office for charity work, and opened her laptop. She pulled up Parsons School of Design. Found the continuing education program. Read course descriptions for interior design, her old passion. Her finger hovered over the registration button. What if Nathan gets angry? What if it's a waste of money? What if I'm not good enough anymore? Then she heard Tessa's voice. Who taught you to apologize for existing? Claire clicked register, entered her credit card information, selected Introduction to Modern Interior Design Evening Course. Hit submit. A confirmation email appeared in her inbox. Claire Hartley, she'd used her maiden name, was officially enrolled. She smiled at the screen, feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The class started the following Tuesday. Claire told Nathan she had a new charity committee that met weekly. He barely looked up. Sure. Just make sure it doesn't conflict with the Ashford dinner in November. Of course. The lie came easier than she expected, which should have bothered her. It didn't. Her first class was in a bright studio in Midtown, 15 other students ranging from early 20s to late 50s. The professor, a woman named Dr. Anya Petrov with silver hair and paint-stained glasses, started with a question. Why are you here? Answers varied: career change, creative outlet, lifelong dream. When it was Claire's turn, she said, to remember who I was before I forgot. Dr. Petrov smiled. Then let's help you remember. The assignments were challenging. Claire was rusty, her skills buried under years of disuse. But slowly, they came back. The way light moved through a space. The psychology of color. How design could make someone feel safe, seen, free. She started sketching again. During the day while Nathan was at work, she'd sit at the kitchen counter with her old sketchbooks, designing spaces that felt like breathing. One afternoon, she sketched her dream bedroom. Soft colors, natural light, plants everywhere, a reading nook, space that felt like her. It looked nothing like their current bedroom, all sharp lines and monochrome palettes that Nathan preferred. She kept the sketch. Claire also started working out, but not for weight loss. She joined a boxing gym in Brooklyn, far enough from their neighborhood that no one would recognize her. The first time she hit the bag, her form was terrible. But the release? Incredible. Good, her instructor, a woman named Keisha, said. Now hit it like it said something stupid about your face. Claire froze. What? I can always tell when someone's hitting the bag to work something out. So work it out. Claire thought about Nathan's comment. About every small cruelty. Every dismissal. She hit the bag harder. And harder. And harder. Until she was sweating and breathless and laughing. There she is, Keisha said, grinning. There's the woman who's done being nice. 3 months into her new routine, Claire caught her reflection in a store window and stopped. She looked different. Not dramatically. But her shoulders were straighter. Her walk was more confident. The permanent tension in her jaw had eased. She was wearing burgundy, a color Nathan once said was too bold. She looked alive. That evening, Nathan glanced at her over dinner. You seem different lately. Claire's heart skipped. Different how? I don't know. Are you sleeping enough? You look, I don't know, flushed or something. I'm sleeping fine. He went back to his phone. That was it. That was his version of noticing. Claire smiled into her wine glass. He had no idea a revolution was happening right under his nose. By month 4, Claire's design professor pulled her aside after class. Claire, your work is exceptional. Have you considered doing this professionally? Oh, I used to dream about it. But I'm married and what? Married women can't have careers. No, of course not. It's just complicated. Dr. Petrov studied her. The only thing complicated is untangling yourself from someone else's limitations. Your work is too good to hide. That night, Claire lay awake thinking about those words. Her work was too good to hide. She was too good to hide. When had she accepted hiding as normal? The shift happened gradually, then all at once. Claire stopped asking Nathan's opinion on her outfits. She booked her own calendar without checking his first. She started seeing Sophia for weekly coffee dates, something she'd stopped doing because Nathan found her too opinionated. "You're different," Sophia said one morning, studying her across the table. "Like, you're here. Present. What changed?" Claire smiled. "I stopped waiting for permission to exist. About damn time. I've missed you. I've missed me too." The real turning point came when Sophia's friend Rachel mentioned she was moving to a new apartment and needed a designer but couldn't afford the big names. "Claire used to design," Sophia said. "She's incredible." "Really?" Rachel's eyes lit up. "Would you be willing to help? I can pay, just not thousands of dollars." Claire's first instinct was to decline. To say she wasn't good enough, wasn't professional, wasn't ready. Then she thought about her Parsons coursework, the sketches filling her notebooks, the passion that had been dormant for years. "I'd love to," she said. Rachel's apartment was a tiny one-bedroom in the West Village, outdated and cramped. Claire walked through it, seeing not what it was but what it could be. "What's your budget?" she asked. $5,000? Claire nodded. She could work with that. Over the next 3 weeks, she transformed the space. Knocked down a non-structural wall, with proper permits. Repainted in warm, light colors. Found affordable vintage pieces and mixed them with IKEA basics. Added plants and texture and light. When it was done, Rachel cried. Claire, this is exactly what I dreamed but couldn't articulate." "How did you know?" "Because I know what it feels like to need a space where you can breathe." Rachel posted photos on Instagram, tagging Claire. By the next morning, Claire had 3 DMs from people asking if she took clients. She stared at her phone, her heart racing. This could be something. This could be hers. She created a business Instagram at Claire Hartley Designs. Posted photos of Rachel's apartment with the caption, "Spaces that let you breathe." Within a week, she had 500 followers and 10 serious inquiries. Claire Hartley, designer, was being born. And Nathan still had no idea. 6 months into her secret life, Claire had 12 clients, an Instagram following of 8,000, and a reputation that was spreading through Manhattan's creative circles like wildfire. Her design philosophy resonated. Spaces that honor who you are, not who you're supposed to be. Every client was a woman in transition. Divorce. Career change. Recovery. New beginnings. Claire understood them because she was them. She'd rented a small studio space in Brooklyn, officially for storage if Nathan ever asked, which he didn't. Really, it was her workshop. Her sanctuary. The place where Claire Hartley existed fully while Claire Benton continued playing her role at home. One afternoon, she was there meeting with a new client when Sophia dropped by with coffee. "Okay, I need to say something," Sophia announced, setting down the cups. Claire looked up from her sketches. "That sounds ominous." "It's not ominous. It's overdue." Sophia sat down. "When are you going to tell Nathan?" "Tell him what?" "Don't play dumb. About the business. About the fact that you're becoming kind of a big deal in design circles. About the fact that you're living a double life." Claire set down her pencil. "When it's necessary." "And when will that be?" "I don't know." Claire's voice was quieter now. "Right now, this is mine. The second I tell Nathan, it becomes something he has opinions about. Something he can criticize or control or dismiss. And I'm not ready to share it yet." "You mean you're not ready to defend it?" "Maybe." "Is that wrong?" Sophia softened. "No." "But Claire, you can't hide yourself forever. Eventually, these 2 lives are going to collide." "I know." Claire looked at her designs, a loft conversion for a writer leaving her husband. "I'm just trying to be solid enough in myself that when they do collide, I don't shatter." The collision came sooner than expected. It was a Tuesday evening. Claire was home before Nathan for once, cooking dinner, something she rarely did anymore. Nathan walked in, loosening his tie. "Smells good. What's the occasion?" "No occasion. Just felt like cooking." He kissed her cheek absently, the kind of kiss that was more muscle memory than affection, and grabbed his tablet. "Oh, speaking of cooking," he said, scrolling. Davies recommended an interior designer for the Hamptons house. Says she's the next big thing. Claire something. Hartley. Do you know her? Claire's knife froze mid-chop. What? Claire Hartley. Apparently she's redefining residential design with this whole authentic spaces concept. Davies wants to hire her for his new penthouse. Nathan was still scrolling, not looking at her. Says she's booked solid for months but worth the wait. Funny that she has your first name. Claire's heart hammered. Funny. Should I reach out to her for the Hamptons place? We've been talking about renovating. This was it. The moment to tell the truth. Nathan. His phone rang. Hold that thought. I need to take this. He walked away, already deep in conversation about merger timelines. Claire stood in the kitchen, knife in hand, her secret sitting in her throat. But the moment passed, and she let it. By month 10, Claire barely recognized herself. She'd cut her hair, not drastically, but shorter, modern, framing her face in a way that made her look alive instead of polished. She'd started dressing for herself. Colors that made her happy. Styles that felt authentic. Nothing too dramatic, but the shift was there for anyone actually looking. Nathan wasn't looking. Their marriage had become a well-choreographed performance. They attended events together, slept in the same bed, had surface-level conversations about schedules and social obligations. But intimacy, real connection, that had died so quietly neither of them had noticed the funeral. Or rather, Nathan hadn't noticed. Claire had been mourning for years. The difference now was that she'd stopped trying to resuscitate something that didn't want to live. She was building a new life instead. Her boxing instructor Keisha noticed the change. You're hitting different now, she said one morning after a particularly intense session. Different how? Before, you were hitting to release. Now you're hitting to celebrate. Claire wiped sweat from her face, considering. I think I'm not angry anymore. What are you? Free. Keisha grinned. Best transformation I've seen. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. The annual Metropolitan Arts Gala, the same event from a year ago, was approaching. Claire looked at the date on the invitation, remembering the woman she'd been. The one who'd cried in the bathroom. The one who'd believed she was the problem. This year would be different. This year, she wasn't going as Nathan's accessory. She was going as herself. She designed her own dress. Spent 3 weeks perfecting it. Deep navy silk that moved like water. Simple lines that didn't scream for attention but commanded it anyway. Elegant without trying. Powerful without performing. The night of the gala, Claire got ready in the guest bathroom, her space now, since she and Nathan had slowly, silently separated into different parts of the penthouse. When she emerged, Nathan was already in the living room, on his phone as always. He looked up, and for the first time in months, really looked at her. Is that new? I made it. Nathan's brow furrowed. You made it? Since when do you sew? Since always. You just never asked. Something flickered across his face. Confusion, maybe. Or the vague awareness that he'd missed something important. But his phone buzzed, and the moment passed. We should go. Cars waiting. They arrived separately to the gala. Nathan had come from the office, Claire from her studio. The venue was the same mansion as last year. The same champagne fountains and marble columns and people who measured worth in stock portfolios. But Claire was different. She walked in alone, her head high, her shoulders back. Not performing confidence, embodying it. And people noticed. Conversations paused as she passed. Heads turned. Not because of the dress, though it was stunning, but because of the energy she carried. Presence. That's what it was. Claire Benton had finally shown up. Nathan was near the bar, deep in conversation with a group of investors, when he saw her. At first, he didn't recognize the woman across the room. She was stunning, effortlessly elegant, laughing at something a museum director was saying. Her hair caught the light. Her smile was genuine, not the careful, controlled one he was used to seeing. Then she turned slightly, and recognition hit him like a physical blow. Claire. It couldn't be. His wife didn't move like that. Didn't command space like that. Didn't look so alive. But it was her. Nathan excused himself from the conversation, making his way across the room. Claire. She turned, her smile polite but not particularly warm. Nathan. How's the networking? You look different. Do I? It wasn't a question that invited elaboration. It was a statement of fact, delivered with a kind of casual confidence that unsettled him. The dress is, where did you say you got it? I made it. Right. You said that. Nathan was struggling, off balance in a way he never was. You look beautiful. Thank you. No blush. No pleased surprise. Just acknowledgement. A man approached, someone Nathan vaguely recognized from the art world. Ms. Hartley, I'm so glad I caught you. I wanted to discuss the possibility of you designing our new gallery space. Nathan's head snapped up. Ms. Hartley. Claire's expression didn't change. Of course. Email me your parameters and we'll set up a consultation. The man left. Nathan stared at her. Why did he call you Ms. Hartley? Because that's my professional name. You're professional, Claire. What the hell is going on? She met his eyes calmly. I'm working. What does it look like? Before he could respond, another person approached, asking for Claire's card. Then another. And another. Nathan watched, increasingly confused and unsettled, as his wife, his quiet, compliant background wife, held court like she owned the room. Later, Nathan cornered Davies near the terrace. You mentioned a designer. Claire Hartley. Davies' face lit up. Oh, she's fantastic. Revolutionary approach to residential design. Very in demand. Why? That's my wife. Davies blinked. Your wife? Nathan, your wife's name is Claire Benton. Hartley was her maiden name. Wait. Davies looked genuinely confused. Your wife is Claire Hartley? The Claire Hartley who's been transforming Manhattan apartments for the past year. Apparently. And you didn't know? Nathan's jaw tightened. We've both been busy. Davies whistled low. Busy is one thing. But Nathan, she's kind of famous in design circles. How did you not know? Nathan had no answer to that. The ride home was silent. Nathan's mind was racing. His wife had an entire career he knew nothing about. A reputation. A following. She'd been living a whole life right under his nose, and he'd been too distracted to notice. Or too dismissive to care. When they got home, Claire kicked off her heels and headed toward the guest bedroom. Claire, we need to talk. She paused. About the fact that you apparently have a secret business. It's not secret. You just never asked. How was I supposed to ask about something I didn't know existed? Claire turned to face him fully. You could have asked what I did with my days. What I cared about. What made me happy. At any point in the last 5 years, you could have shown interest in my life. I thought you did charity work. You assumed I did charity work because that's what wives like me are supposed to do. You never actually asked. Nathan ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. This is insane. When did this even start? About a year ago. The timeline hit him. A year? You've been running a business for a year and didn't tell me. Why would I tell you? So you could criticize it? Control it? Tell me it's not appropriate for a woman in my position. I wouldn't have. Yes, you would have. Claire's voice was calm, which somehow made it worse. You've criticized everything else about me. My clothes. My hair. My weight. My opinions. My face. Nathan. You literally told me to hide my face. Nathan froze. I was stressed. I didn't mean. You meant it. And that was the moment I realized I was done letting you define my worth. The argument escalated, both of them saying things that had been building for years. Nathan's anger was really fear. Fear that he was losing control, losing her, losing something he'd taken for granted. Claire's calm was really grief, for the years she'd wasted, the parts of herself she'd abandoned, the marriage that had been dying slowly while she tried to perform CPR alone. I thought you were happy. Nathan finally shouted. You thought I was quiet. There's a difference. So what, you're just going to keep lying to me? Keep living this secret life. I'm going to keep living my life. And if you're not interested in actually knowing me, then yes, I suppose it will remain a secret to you. Nathan stared at her, this woman who looked like his wife but stood like a stranger. I don't even know you anymore. Claire smiled sadly. You never did, Nathan. You just never noticed before. Over the following weeks, the tension in the penthouse became unbearable. Nathan tried, in his way, asking about her day, commenting on her outfits, even looking at her Instagram. But it felt performative, like he was gathering intelligence rather than showing genuine interest. Claire could feel the difference between curiosity and control. One evening, he found her packing a suitcase. Where are you going? Sophia's. For how long? I don't know. Panic crept into his voice. Are you leaving me? Claire paused, considering. No. I'm leaving the version of myself you created. I don't understand what that means. I know you don't. That's the problem. Claire moved into Sophia's guest room temporarily while she looked for her own place. The relief of being in a space where she could breathe, where no one was monitoring her choices or dismissing her existence, was overwhelming. How are you feeling? Sophia asked one night over wine. Guilty. Relieved. Terrified. Free. Claire laughed. All of it at once. Are you getting divorced? I don't know. Maybe. I just know I can't go back to being that small. Good. Because that woman was a ghost. This version of you, she's real. Nathan, meanwhile, was spiraling. Work no longer provided the dopamine hit it used to. The penthouse felt cavernous without Claire, not because she'd been particularly present, but because her absence highlighted how empty everything was. He started therapy, something he'd always considered self-indulgent weakness. His therapist, Dr. Brennan, was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who didn't let him hide behind corporate speak. Tell me about your marriage, she said in their first session. My wife left. Why? Because... Nathan struggled. Because I didn't see her. What does that mean? I don't know. She keeps saying I never saw her, but I looked at her every day. I don't understand what I was supposed to see. Dr. Brennan leaned forward. Nathan, looking at someone and seeing them are very different things. One is observation. The other is recognition. Which one were you doing? The question haunted him for days. Okay, pause. Because we need to talk about what's happening here. Nathan is finally, starting to understand that he destroyed something precious while he wasn't paying attention. And Claire is thriving. Drop a comment. Do you think Nathan deserves a second chance? Or should Claire walk away for good? I genuinely want to know what you think. And if you're invested in this story, if you're feeling all the feelings, smash that like button and share this with someone who needs to hear that leaving doesn't always mean running away. Sometimes it means running toward yourself. Now let's see if Nathan can actually change, or if he's just scared of losing his possession. 3 months after Claire moved out, her business was featured in Architectural Digest. The article was titled, Claire Hartley, Designing Spaces Where Women Remember Their Worth. It featured photos of her work, apartments transformed from sterile showpieces into warm, authentic homes, and an interview where she talked about her philosophy. For years, I designed my own life to fit someone else's vision of what I should be. My work now is about creating spaces where people don't have to shrink, where they can spread out, breathe, and remember that taking up space isn't selfish, it's human. The interviewer asked if she was married. Separated. Learning to take my own advice. Nathan read the article 3 times. He'd never heard her talk like that. With such clarity. Such conviction. Had she always been capable of this, and he'd just never noticed? Or had he actively suppressed it? His therapy sessions grew more uncomfortable. "Tell me about the comment," Dr. Brennan said. "The one about her face." Nathan shifted. "I was stressed. It just came out." "But you'd thought it before saying it, yes?" "I don't know. Maybe. I just meant she wasn't trying hard enough. For an important event." "What does trying hard enough look like?" "Looking polished. Perfect. Like someone worthy of being on my arm." Dr. Brennan was quiet for a moment. "Nathan, do you hear what you just said?" "What?" "You treated your wife like an accessory. Something that existed to make you look good." The words hit him like a slap. "I didn't. I loved her." "Did you? Or did you love the idea of her? The version that made you look successful and put together?" Nathan couldn't answer. Because sitting in that office, forced to actually examine his behavior, he realized the horrifying truth. He'd never loved Claire as a person. He'd loved her as a function. A role. A reflection of his own success. And the moment she'd stopped reflecting what he wanted, he'd tried to dim her light rather than appreciate that she had light of her own. 6 months after the separation, Nathan attended a gallery opening. He almost didn't go. Contemporary art wasn't really his thing. But a colleague had invited him, and sitting alone in the penthouse was becoming unbearable. The gallery featured residential design photography. Spaces that felt lived in and loved rather than staged. Nathan was studying a photo of a sun-drenched living room when he heard a familiar laugh. He turned. Claire stood across the gallery, surrounded by a small crowd. She wore wide-leg trousers and a simple silk blouse, nothing flashy, but she glowed. That's what struck him. She glowed. Not from makeup or lighting. From something internal. Something he'd never seen when she lived with him. She was happy. He waited until the crowd thinned before approaching. "Claire." She turned, surprise flickering across her face. "Nathan. I didn't expect to see you here. Colleague invited me. I didn't realize this was your work." "It is." She gestured to the photos. "These are projects from the last year." Nathan looked around with new eyes. "They're beautiful. Thank you." Awkward silence. "You look good," Nathan said finally. "Really good." "I feel good. Can we talk? Maybe coffee?" Claire studied him. There was no anger in her expression. No bitterness. Just careful consideration. "As friends." The word stung. But he nodded. "As friends. Okay. I have time next Tuesday." They met at a small cafe in the West Village, Claire's choice. Nothing fancy or corporate. Just a neighborhood spot with good coffee and actual warmth. Nathan was nervous in a way he hadn't been in years. "How have you been?" Claire asked once they settled in. Honest answer? "Always. Terrible. The penthouse feels like a mausoleum. Work feels hollow. Everything I thought mattered just doesn't anymore." Claire sipped her coffee. "I'm sorry you're struggling." "Are you?" "Sorry, I mean. I'm sorry you're in pain. I'm not sorry I left." The distinction was important. Nathan nodded. "I've been in therapy." "That's good." "Dr. Brennan, that's my therapist. She's helping me understand how badly I—" He struggled for words. "How badly I failed you. Us." Claire didn't disagree or comfort him. Just waited. "I treated you like a possession," Nathan continued. "Like your job was to make me look good, and anything that didn't serve that purpose was wrong. I criticized you for having color and opinions and presence because somewhere along the way, I decided that controlling you was the same as loving you. And now, Now I know how wrong I was. How cruel. How—" His voice cracked. "How much I lost because I couldn't see what was right in front of me." Claire's eyes softened, but she didn't reach for him. "Nathan, I appreciate that you're doing the work. Genuinely. But I need you to understand something. Okay. I didn't leave to punish you. I left to save myself. And the woman I am now, she can't go back to being small. Not for anyone. Not even for the possibility of us. I know. I don't want you to be small. I want—" Nathan paused. "I want to know you. The real you. If you'll let me." "Why? Because you miss having a wife? Or because you actually want to know who I am?" It was the most important question she'd ever asked him. Nathan took a breath. "When I saw you at the gallery, laughing with those people, you looked free. And I realized I've never seen you look like that. Not in 5 years of marriage. Which means I spent 5 years making you a prisoner in a life I built." He met her eyes. "I want to know the woman who's free. Not to capture her again. But because I finally understand that's who I should have been seeing all along." They talked for 3 hours. Not about reconciliation. About everything else. Claire told him about her business, her clients, her design philosophy. Nathan told her about therapy, about confronting his father's legacy of equating love with control, about learning that vulnerability wasn't weakness. It wasn't romantic. It was honest. And for the first time in their entire relationship, they saw each other clearly. Over the following months, they continued meeting. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinners turned into walks through the city. Nathan attended one of Claire's speaking engagements at Parsons, sitting in the back row, watching her command a room full of design students with the same confidence she'd once hidden. After, he approached carefully. "You were incredible. Thank you. I mean it. Watching you up there. Claire, you're extraordinary. And I'm sorry I spent so long trying to make you ordinary." She smiled. "I forgive you, Nathan. Not for you. For me. Because carrying that anger was exhausting. Do you think—" He hesitated. "Do you think we could try again? Differently this time?" Claire was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. The woman you married doesn't exist anymore. I killed her to survive. And the woman I am now has standards your old self could never meet." "What are those standards?" "I need to be seen. Really seen. Not as your wife or your accessory or the person who makes your life easier. But as a whole person with dreams and opinions and edges that don't need smoothing." "I can do that." "Can you?" "Because Nathan, if we do this and you fall back into old patterns, if you try to control me or dim me or make me fit into your idea of what I should be, I will leave. And I won't come back." The boundary was clear. Nathan nodded. "I understand. And I want to try. Not to get back what we had. But to build something new. Something real. Then we start slow. As friends. And we see what happens when two completely different people try to actually know each other." "I'd like that." 1 year after Claire moved out, 14 months after Nathan's cruel comment, they stood together at the opening of Claire's first flagship showroom. It was in Soho, all light and warmth and spaces that felt like possibility. Nathan had helped financially, not as a controlling investor, but as a silent partner who trusted her vision completely. "This is amazing," he said, looking around at the crowd of clients, designers, and press. "It is, isn't it?" Claire beamed. They'd been dating for 6 months. Slowly. Intentionally. Living separately. Building trust before considering cohabitation. It looked different than their marriage had. Less performance. More presence. They argued sometimes, real arguments where both people had voices. They had boundaries. They had individual lives that intersected rather than consumed. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. A journalist approached, asking for a photo. "Mr. and Mrs. Benton?" "Actually," Claire corrected gently, "it's Ms. Hartley." I kept my professional name. Nathan smiled. Not the tight, controlled smile of a man who needed his wife to reflect his brand, but genuine pride. Ms. Hartley and Mr. Benton, the journalist amended. As they posed, Nathan whispered, "You know, that night at the gala last year? When I finally saw you. Yeah. I thought you looked different because of the dress or your hair or something external. But it wasn't that, was it? No. It was that you finally saw yourself. And once you did, everyone else could too." Claire looked at him, this man who'd broken her and was slowly, painstakingly learning how to honor her instead. Exactly. Later that night, after the guests left and the caterers cleaned up, Claire stood alone in her showroom. The city lights stretched beyond the windows, the same city she'd looked at from Nathan's penthouse a year ago. But everything was different now. She pulled out her phone and opened her notes app, where she'd been keeping a journal. The entry from that terrible gala night a year ago read, "I don't know who I am anymore. But I'm going to find out. Tonight," she wrote. "I know exactly who I am. And she's more than I ever dreamed." So here's what Claire's story teaches us, and I need you to really hear this. Your worth is not determined by who sees it. Nathan looked at Claire every day for 5 years and saw nothing. That didn't mean she was invisible. It meant he was blind. The cruelest words can spark the most beautiful transformations. That comment about her face? It could have destroyed her. Instead, it woke her up. Sometimes pain is the price of admission to your own life. Real beauty isn't about perfection. It's about presence. Claire didn't get beautiful by changing her face or her body. She got beautiful by finally showing up as herself. Fully. Unapologetically. Second chances are possible, but only when both people do the work. Nathan didn't get Claire back by apologizing. He got the possibility of her back by actually changing. And Claire didn't take him back out of loneliness or hope. She let him in because he finally learned to see her. And here's the most important one. You are not a before photo. You are the entire journey. Claire wasn't incomplete when she was small and quiet. She was surviving. And she wasn't finally complete when she became successful and confident. She was just finally free to be all the versions of herself she'd been hiding. Your transformation doesn't start when someone else finally notices you. It starts when you notice yourself. Now, before you go, I need something from you. If this story moved you, hit that like button right now. Not later. Because the algorithm gods reward immediate action, and I want this story to reach every woman who's been told to make herself smaller. Comment below. What's one thing you're reclaiming for yourself this year? It can be big or small. A career, a hobby, your voice, your boundaries. Tell me. I'll be reading and responding to every single comment. Share this video with one person who needs to hear it. You know who they are. The friend who's dimming herself for someone else. The sister who's forgotten who she was. The colleague who's performing instead of living. Send it to them. And subscribe to Love and Luxury if you haven't already. Because this channel is about more than stories. It's about women who stopped apologizing and started glowing. It's about second chances that are earned, not given. It's about love that enhances instead of diminishes. We post new stories every week. Stories about fate, transformation, and women who chose themselves. This is Dr. Mason, and I'll leave you with this. The most stunning transformation isn't physical. It's spiritual. It's the moment you stop seeking approval and start seeking authenticity. It's when you realize that taking up space isn't selfish, it's necessary. It's when you understand that the right person doesn't need you to be less. They celebrate you being more. Claire Benton walked out of a bathroom crying because her husband told her to hide her face. Claire Hartley walked into her own showroom glowing because she finally remembered her face was never the problem. You are not too much. You are not enough. You are exactly right when you stop performing and start being. Choose yourself. Always. Until next time, remember, the best revenge isn't success. It's becoming so radiantly yourself that the past becomes irrelevant.